Chapter 32. The afternoon following the trial, Sam told me he would be leaving in 2 days. There were several trials he had to preside over beyond gnome cabins. Near the feather bed? No, in the south. Oh, I didn't want him to leave, although I didn't need him. Everyone was kind, and a few gnomes spoke Eorthian. I had been here for 6 weeks. I knew how to find whatever I wanted, but Zam made me feel safe. If a crossroad came, he would recognize it and know what to do.
I'll bring back a bushel of human food. Food for humans, to be exact.
Anything but apples. Before he left, the armorers returned from Antio Castle. The most important news, wonderful news, was that the king's health had improved. He'd opened his eyes, and he followed people's movements with them. He couldn't walk or talk, but he could raise the pinky finger of his left hand. Sir Enoch thought a full recovery was possible. I hugged Zam, who looked almost as pleased as I felt. The news that followed was mixed. The king's council was meeting openly again, and food had been dispatched to the drought-stricken south. Ivy still ruled, but nowadays she could be persuaded out of her worst notions. There continued to be occasional mutterings about rebellion. Have the birds returned? Are people allowed to sing? Yes and yes.
What of Maid Azza?
Sam said.
Is she spoken of?
The armorer named Diff said,
You are believed dead, Maid Azza. Master Uju let it be known that you died saving him from ogres.
How kind! Was he believed?
He said no one questioned his tale. I expect he whispered a different story in your queen's ears.
You called him Master Uju, he said. Not sir? The queen didn't knight him?
No,
Diff said.
I don't think he was knighted. Was Maid Azak exonerated?
Zam asked.
There was much debate,
Diff said.
But in the end you weren't exonerated.
The tip of his nose turned violet.
You still had sung for the queen. They believed you schemed to win your positions.
Humans, Sam snorted. It wasn't safe yet for me to leave gnome caverns. Did Prince Ajori return? I said.
No,
Diff said.
He was away the whole while.
Sam left the next morning. We said goodbye in the banquet hall after breakfast. He seemed almost as unhappy as I felt.
I feel foreboding, he said. Be on the watch for crossroads. If you need advice, go to Dick. He can't see ahead, but he has a good mind for what's nearby.
Sam said he'd be back in 3 weeks at the latest.
If you need me, Dick will send a messenger. I can be back in 2 days.
I nodded again and sang a bit of a parting song. May the path open up before you. May all your hills roll blessedly up and gently down. He began to sway, and his worried expression faded. May the sun smile sweetly. May the rain fall softly. May a breeze ruffle your hair. May your host receive you with charm. May your rest be calm. May you be glad where'er you are. He raised his hands.
Farewell, Maid Azza. I wish you could lose all the way to me wherever I go.
I wasn't likely to be bored while he was gone. I had 8 songs to write in the next week, and I'd likely receive more commissions. In addition, I was studying gnomic from books Zam had given me. I hoped to amaze him with my progress when he returned. I hoped to amaze him with something else as well, a gift. I started for the market. I hadn't spent even a flake of my song fees. Zam paid for my meals, and my bed cavern belonged to him. My wardrobe closet was full of gnomish gowns and sashes that he'd provided. He said my songs and delicious ostumo left him in my debt. So now I wanted to buy something for him, a tunic. He loved them so. He had striped tunics, and flowered tunics, and paisley tunics, and plaid tunics, all with emerald buttons. I knew from father, who collected brass stirrups, that if you love a thing, one more is always welcome. Emerald buttons were beyond my purse, but I hoped to find a tunic embroidered with ton thread that I could afford. I went to the stall of Zam's tailor and discovered to my dismay that a dozen purses would be enough for a ton embroidered tunic. I had no idea what to buy instead. I wandered from stall to stall. There were jeweled shovels, jeweled hammers, and jeweled chamber pots of all things. There was even a jeweled strong box, which seemed to defeat the purpose of a strong box. A peddler proffered a tray of root candy. Icing had been applied so that each piece looked like a jewel. To me, it was a case of one inedible thing being disguised as a different inedible thing. In a stationer's stall, I saw just the thing for Zam, a cloth-bound notebook. The cloth appeared a dull black. Gold thread ran through it, but there were no gems. "Ton?" I asked, pointing at it. The vendor nodded. "Ton." The pages were lined. I could write songs in it. If there was time, perhaps I could find someone to help me translate them into Nomadic. Sam would love it. "Yoltiamad?" One of the few phrases I knew. It meant, "How much?" I opened my purse. The vendor took out a dozen gems. We made the exchange. I turned away from the stall clutching my booty. I found myself facing another peddler, a gnome maiden who smiled eagerly. Along with combs and laces, her tray contained things I yearned for. A bun studded with pecans, a wedge of cheese, a bunch of grapes, and an apple. "Just for you," she said in heavily accented Aorthean. Was it really human food, or root candy disguised as human food? I touched the bun. It gave way, and root candy was hard. The bun had to be real. I had reached a crossroad, but I didn't recognize it. The peddler pulled off a grape and gave it to me. A few gnomes stopped to watch. I popped the grape into my mouth. My observers grimaced, but the grape was heaven, juicy and sweet, the best grape I'd ever eaten. The peddler pointed at my purse. I took out a diamond pebble and handed it to her. She held up 2 fingers. 2 diamonds for a few morsels. She was robbing me. But I had to have the food. I was salivating. I was probably drooling. I shook out another diamond. She took the jewels. I took the provisions. It would have been decorous to take everything with me and eat in the privacy of Zam's parlor, but I couldn't wait that long. While the gnomes watched with expressions of fascinated revulsion, I bit into the cheese. It was hard and salty and full of flavor. I chewed it, sucked on it, almost swooned from pleasure. Then I gobbled up the grapes and the bun. I hesitated over the apple, but it was human food, and I couldn't resist. I bit into it. It wasn't bad, sweet and not mealy. I began to swallow, then tasted something under the sweetness, something bitter and searingly sharp. I tried to cough the morsel out, but it wedged in my windpipe. I clutched my throat to squeeze it out. It didn't budge. I tried again to cough. I tried to breathe. I staggered and fell. The peddler bent over me, her expression a mixture of remorse and gloating, just as Zam had predicted. Oh, Jory, she'd poisoned me. My essence was wrenched away from my body. I floated toward the cavern ceiling. I wanted to get back to my body, but my essence had no strength. I could feel my body. It seemed unmoving, but it was breathing, oh so shallowly, a wisp of air finding its way past the chunk of poisoned apple. My essence reached the ceiling and passed through the rock itself. Rock felt no different from air. I emerged into open space and flew, gaining speed, above the ridge Uju and I had followed. I could still feel my body in gnome caverns, could still feel that thin dribble of breath go in and out. High above the caverns, the trek that had taken days was accomplished in seconds. Mount Ormalo rose ahead, and there was Antio Castle. I was in the castle, hurtling over the great hall, through a corridor, through a door, Ivy's door, into Ivy's apartments, to the dressing table, into the hand mirror, into the mirror.